Hello everyone, welcome to Global Dream Maker Summit, the Leadership Summit for Spring 2022. My name is Baylan Megino, and I am absolutely honored to welcome the Right Honourable Yvonne E. Gamble to the stage. Welcome, Yvonne.
Well, thank you so much, Baylan. I really appreciate you having me on the stage with the Dream Maker Spring Summit.
Oh my gosh, this is not the first time. It's because you always have awesome information to share with us and really relevant for the times. So before we get started, because you're here to talk about finances and financial wealth, mindset convergence. Before we talk about that and jump into that, let me tell them a bit about your background, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So, Right Honorable Yvonne Gamble has 35 plus years of business experience with 23 years directly in banking and finance, beginning in $1 million banking division of American National Bank in Chicago, serving clientele and corporations who were the purveyors of the gross national product for the United States and worldwide. Can you imagine? LaSalle National Bank Land Trust Representative, Continental Bank Syndicated Lender, Charter Bank FHA VA Department Manager. She was at the top of it all. Yvonne Gamble also served on the Chicago 21's 40-year Regentrification of Chicago project under Mayor Richard Daley. Currently serving as CEO of T-Minus Real Estate Development, part owner and modular home builder, and is CEO of SanPete Financial Group, a venture capital firm. So she's also a podcast host of FYNB Talks, like Financing Your Next Billion, FYNB Talks Dissecting Venture Capital. Her books, Financing Your Next Billions, Why Do We Communicate? 64 Big Proverbial Reasons Why We Communicate, and Growing Your Business During the Recession, and her most recent title, Fourth Industrial Revolution Change Management for the Next 100 Years. These are business and communications guides. Well, there's a whole lot more here that you're doing and that you have done, but we're going to leave it at that because let's hone in. I'd like to hone in. Before we go deep into it, I want to just get a real brief understanding of why did you or how did you come to focus on the work that you're focusing on now?
Well, being in the financial industry, it's very easy for us, who are part of that industry to kind of stay at that level and simply do what we do. And that is, distribute financing, manage commerce around the world. But looking at the actual landscape and the way things are going in the world, my mindset feels that it's more important that we stop for a moment and educate the people. And that's why, I have written some of the books I have written on the, the specific topics I have. That's why I come out, and I do speaking engagements, I do trainings, and really trying to give the people a sense of, what are finances and what is financial wealth, because that's a real big issue. And most of the times those two kind of get merged together and people don't truly understand that it's a mindset on both of them. Yes, there are technical aspects to each of those, but in the world of financing, it's a mindset.
Well, yeah, I mean, people spend a lot of time trying to reset their mindset set point, right? The set point for your money mindset, right? Mm-hmm. But we're talking even beyond that. It's the more all-encompassing wealth mindset, right?
Right.
So, yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back because I need to listen into this really closely. I'm going to be taking notes, and you have the stage. Please share your brilliance. We're so honored to have you here.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, first, just let me just say this. Finances, that's a fancy word for, financial matters. In other words, anything having to do with money. And businesses often talk about their finances, just as Baylan mentioned, but they're really talking about, how much money they're making or they're losing, or what their financial outlook is actually looking like. What you have to focus on is finance. It's a broad term, and it actually is describing the activities. Listen carefully. It describes the activities associated with banking, leveraging your losses, leveraging your debt, leveraging your credit, looking at the capital markets, meaning those markets that are actually going to bring money into you, looking at funds and investments. So basically, finance represents the getting and the spending and the management of money. Now, I don't want you just to, put those all together and as just one thing, because those are, I said, three totally different things. And that is getting the finances, how you spend your finances, and how you manage your money. And that's where the mindset comes into play. What do you do to actually bring your money in? Whether that's money into your family, money into you for yourself personally, or money into your business. What do you do? Those are the things you have to be really concerned about and apprised of and very take care of. And then how do you spend your money? What do you spend your money on? Are you truly, is there a value that's coming back when you're actually expending something out into the marketplace? What is the value that you are receiving from that money that you are spending? And that really folds you over into how do you manage your money? The management of your money. You have financial advisors out there. You have funders out there who can help you. You have investment funders. There's wealth builders. You have all those people to help you to manage your money. So those areas, when you think about finance in that broad term, it is really the activities that are associated with banking, the leveraging of your debt, the leveraging of your credit, how you view capital markets, how do you capitalize your business, how do you capitalize for the best move for your family, the funds, and the investment. Those are your basic financial representatives that are going to determine how well you're going to get the money that you're looking for. That's going to help you with how you spend that money, and that's going to help you manage that money. Now I want to flip over to the opposite side, and that's financial wealth. That's actually on the opposite side of finances. Financial wealth measures the value of all assets of worth that are owned by you as an individual, or that a community may own, or that a company may own, or that a country may own. Wealth is determined by taking the total market value of all physical and tangible assets owned, then subtracting all debts. So your wealth, if you're looking at it on a personal level, is everything that I have. What is the value of everything that I have? My physical assets, my tangible assets that I actually own. I'm not talking about assets that you have a home that you have a mortgage on. If you have a mortgage on a house, that is a liability. If you have a note on a car, that is a liability. That is not an asset. An asset is something that you own 100%. So you add all that together, and then you subtract how much debt, in other words, how much you owe against all of that, or how much you owe any installments. And that tells you what your actual worth is. That's your financial wealth. So that's how they come to, that's how you derive that number. So let's go over that again, because sometimes that can get to be, it can be said maybe a little bit too fast or whatever. So next time I'm going to go over it a little bit slower and give you an opportunity, because I want you to write this down. so that you really get it and you can remember it and commit it to your memory. Your wealth measures the value of all the assets of worth owned by a person, a community, a company, or a country. Take the total market value of all physical and tangible and intangible assets that you own 100% of, with no liabilities or no debt leveraged against them. And then you subtract all the debts that you do have, and that becomes your wealth. So let me show you 4 types of wealth that are out there. Obviously, number 1 is always financial wealth. That's the most we think about money. Money is what we most naturally think about when we hear the word wealth and what you work towards. But your number 2 wealth is social wealth, and that is your status. So your social wealth comes down to how you interact with the world. It's not your just simply what you look like on social media or how many postings you have or how many articles. It is how you interact. It is what you do with the world, or what you do for the world, what you do with your business, what your business does for the people it serves. That is your social wealth. Then we move on further, and that is time wealth. Money, your first type of wealth, you can make more money, but time you cannot. That's why the term time well spent, or spending my time, or I spent my time. That means that your time now is gone away and you're not going to get that time back. So your time wealth is probably, in my opinion, your highest and best wealth is your time wealth, and what you spend that on and how you actually manage that, even beyond your financial wealth, your money wealth. Because what will happen is the better you manage your time, the better you'll be at managing your social wealth, and the more creative and the more expensive and expansive you'll be with your financial wealth. The 4th type of wealth is physical wealth. Yes, there is a wealth in physical. And if you did not believe that yesterday, you should have believed that in the last 2 years. That should have come very crystal clear. Your physical wealth, your health, is a number 1 factor, because why? It controls everything else. If your physical health is not in order, the rest of the wealth really won't matter. So you have to have that physical wealth in order, your time wealth in order, your social wealth in order, and all of these will bring you closer to that financial wealth that you're trying to build. This is the reason why these 2 come as a finances and financial wealth have to be a mindset convergence, because now you have to bring these 2 mindsets together. They have to converge and meet and have to be come into agreement so that you can move forward. Other than that, you will be working one against the other. You will be spending time. You won't pay attention to your health, or you'll say, I'll take care of my health when I get some more money. I'll take care of my social wealth when I get some more money. Then I'll have more money to put into my marketing and my advertising, my branding of myself and of my business. And what will happen is you will forever wonder why things aren't working. Why am I not able to level up? Why am I not able to go out into other areas and actually work with other people? Because there's no convergence here. There's no marrying here. There's no coming together, no joining of these 2 areas. These are like the left brain and right brain. Those 2, you cannot go out there and expect to exist with just the left brain or just a part of the brain, the right brain. Those two have to work in concert and in connectivity, one with the other. So to achieve this will give you spiritual peace when the two, and only when the two become one. That is the intersection that will be achieved, but only by a mindset convergence of the financial two halves, and that is finances and financial wealth. Hopefully, I have given you enough information here to get yourself started on your journey to building your financial empire. Change your mindset, you'll change your life.
Oh, that's good. I have a question.
Yes.
Financial wealth, the way that you described it sounds to me like net worth. Is that the same?
Net worth is, that would be the result. The net worth would be the result when you take the culmination of all of your assets, all of your tangible and intangible assets, and you add them together of your 100% assets owned, and then you subtract all your debt, and then that net product is your wealth.
Okay, and so I understand, which I get it. I get it. It's I'm trying to think of an analogy where you have finance, which is how you actually actively work with the bringing in, the managing, the spending, the investing of the money. And then the financial wealth is the result, but the result won't be there unless you're doing the finance.
Correct. That is, you are absolutely, that is an excellent analogy. That's exactly what it is. The activities that you do, you can do all those activities, but if you do not measure the value, if there's no value in what you are doing, you're simply coming to a value of zero. And that's why what happens is many people at the end of their days, they end up with no assets owned. They have debt. They have debt, and their debt, and literally what they do is, unfortunately, people they think that they can take their insurance policy and pay off all their debts, and then they're done. But then where's the wealth? Now they have actually zeroed out. And many times people do die, and their insurance policy or whatever money they have in the bank accounts or what have you don't even cover all of what they have, and they leave debt that others have to now satisfy.
Oh, I know. When things get really, really tight and difficult, one of the things people have to be really careful of is to not to spend the principal.
Yes.
Not to get rid of the principal of your asset, because you can't replace it. Once it's gone, it's gone.
It's gone. Exactly. It's gone. And so you really want to be very careful of when you are leveraging your debt, when you are, when you're building up so much debt that you can't pay that off, then you have no assets. Assets are wealth. Wealth is only really determined by the value of your assets. And that's really the value of what you own 100% of. If your audience takes anything away or takes absolutely nothing away, they need to understand that one thing is that wealth is really a value of assets that I own 100% of. Not things that I have. Anything that I have that I'm carrying debt on, that is not an asset. That's a liability.
Well, can you say though that the let's say your home, let's say its value is 100,000, but you still have a mortgage of 75,000. So is 25,000 your asset value?
No. Because what would happen is, if something were to happen with your income, and your income was no longer coming in, guess where that 25,000 is going? To pay down that 20, you really would go to zero, because that 25,000 would be used to pay down against that debt. And you still wouldn't, and you wouldn't have anything. You still be owing.
And you still have to put money on, put food on the table.
Exactly. And this is why many people lose their homes. Just as many people will lose their homes, they can own that home 100%, and then they don't pay their taxes, leveraging their debt, and they don't make provisions for that. And some people can lose their home for as little as $5,000, that they're $10,000 they weren't unable to pay, and that home could be valued at 10 or 12 million.
Oh, we won't go into that one. That's all.
We won't go into that. We'll leave that one for another day. But there's, you know, you have to understand the whole of it and not just a part of it. And you have to understand that finances and wealth has nothing to do with what you want. We have to get out of the want mindset. I want, and looking across at what someone else has, and I want that. We've been doing that for now, for the better part of the last 250 years that this country has been in its inception. And that is, everyone looks at, what someone else has, and the grass is always greener on the other side of the street. But it's not. It's just simply that you're standing there in the shadow of a tree, and now you're looking out at the sun shining on the other side. But the grass is no greener than the grass. If you went to the other side and looked back at your yard, you'd see it was the same green.
So many people who will be listening to this have their nest egg, often have their retirement handled. So they're financially, they're doing okay. They're doing well. So what do you tell them about things like cryptocurrency and NFTs that are just floating there nice and shiny bright?
Just waiting to be plucked off. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and those types of things are something that are making their mark, and they will make their mark, but they are asset-backed currencies, just as our dollars are asset-backed currencies. So there's something there that stands behind it that gives it value. And as long as there's something that is behind, some tangible, again, we're right back at the same value of an asset. In other words, 100%, an asset that is 100% owned, not an asset that has a debt against it, but an asset that is 100% owned by that company, that gives that crypto, that currency, its value. Okay. And so therefore its value will stand as long as that asset is there and in place and is backing it. So those will build up over the years, just as the value of the dollar built up. There was a time when the dollar had no value because we didn't have anything in this country. Remember how I said earlier, wealth measures the value of all assets of worth owned by a person, a community, a company, or a country. So there was a time here in the United States where our dollar was worth pennies because we didn't have the gold to back it or any other assets. And as we built up our assets, we built up the value of our dollar. And that's the same thing with crypto. Now with NFTs, non-fungible assets, this is basically more speculative, where they're taking art and they're actually, those non-fungible tokens, they're actually valuing the art. We draw a picture, or we have a picture, or someone, sells something, and we place a value on it. And we value that simply because the market will buy it at that price. Well, that they may buy it at that price today or tomorrow. That person can't move that. But that asset does not stay in a base. So in other words, that asset does not stay necessarily in place. if I were to submit a piece of artwork and I sold it to you, and you bought that asset for $10 million, and then you took that, so now the value on that asset is $10 million, and then you sold that to somebody else for $5 million. That asset just went, it just went right down, then that asset is not in place. It doesn't have to stay in place. So what I would say to those people who are looking at the different types of currencies to get into, understand what's going on with each one of them. Your cryptocurrency, your Bitcoin, those currencies, those are actual currencies that have positioned themselves to go up against the standard currencies around the world and to compete in those same types of market. They are going to become standard currencies that have assets backed, that assets stay in place. They don't just move around, and they do not just simply change value just because someone else decides that this is worth 10 times what maybe I paid for it. So now you're going to get it and you're going to knock it up 20 times. No, assets have to have a stabilized value and stay in place. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, those sorts of things, that is simply that's almost like a swap meet type deal where it's whoever is the influencer, whoever is the top artist, whoever's the top draw, that's how they are actually determining their value, but that particular asset does not stay in place. So that would not be a currency type exchange. That's more or less, I value this, or I made the assumption that this was worth this, and so that's why I paid this amount for it. The same as if you went to an auction and that auctioneer put something up there, and depending on who was there in the room, we would all decide on, what the price was we were going to pay. But you go into another room the next day and it's a different audience, and they're going to pay something else.
Okay, so I'm gonna go. Thank you for that. That was great. I'm going to go back to mindset, and I want to ask if what we're wanting to do is to create a thriving and prosperous world, a thriving and prosperous planet, humanity. What should we, how can we shape the mindset of our children? Because they're the ones who are going into this difficult time, much more difficult than where we are right now, I think, at least for a while. How can we equip them with better mindset for building prosperity in what's going to be a really different world?
Well, what you do is this. It's similar to basically what my parents did for me. My mother told me, she said that I would come out into a world where we would have flying cars, and that I would be at a world where we would go, instantly and to our work and be able to work on the computer, where information would pass to and fro, and it would literally pass in an instant. Now, how did she know that, to tell me that in 1974, that this is the world that I would be living in? Obviously, she had done research. Obviously, she had educated herself on what the world was going to look like. And she did not see the world as, oh, it is so hard, because it was not something she was doing at that time or was even available. These were the different types of, as a matter of fact, the things that she was talking about, we didn't have flying cars, and we're still, trying to get there. But we are doing things in an instant. And there's a lot of the things she talked about that, yes. And these were the things she read about and she researched. That's what parents can do today. That's what businesses can do today. You have to realize that we have to get out of the mindset of this linear time frame. You have to let linear go. We really have got to let linear go. We've held on to it far, far too long. Time is circular. Time is past, present, and future at the very moment in time. We're sitting here as repositors of the past. Everything we did in our past, we have it there. We have it right here with us. We are now in the present. And what we are speaking about are about those things that will happen in the future. And that's how you have to begin to see time. So when you're going to convey a message to your children, whether they are, small children, kindergarten or preschool or middle school, what have you, all the way up to your adult children, and so on and so forth, you want to convey, you want to be well studied as you possibly can. Find someone who is, if you cannot, and make certain that you give them, your child, access to those points, and sit down and discuss with them in this manner. Things changed as you move through time. Things did not stay the same. They're not the same today as they were 20, 40, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. They changed. How did you adapt to those changes? What did you do? And those are the lessons learned that you have that now you can convey to your children to say, this is what you will need to learn how to do in the new world, in the new places, and the new things that you're going to be going into. And that is adaptability, flexibility, and keeping an open mind. That's what you need to be teaching to your children. And stop saying things to them. Stop telling these children, oh, it's so hard. Oh, it's so difficult. Oh, you can't do. You literally are telling them you can't do this, you can't do that. Yes, they can. You did it. We all did it. I don't think anybody is sitting here and still, I'm pretty sure the outside of maybe the Amish people who are still using horse and buggies, but I don't think anybody is rolling around rocks, trying to make the rock roll, and that's their car that they're going in. No, we all did it. And so therefore there's no such thing as what we can't do. So let's start telling our children what they can do, and help them with how they can do it so that they can make that jump, because they're going to have to jump into light speed. We are now living in literally a virtual world, a meta world that's very different. And these are not concepts, believe it or not, that are not new. If you go back to look at old episodes of Max Headroom, which is in 1980s, you'll see the very same thing today that you are seeing. You go back and you look at Dune. That's why a movie like Dune took away so many Academy Awards. Dune first came out, in the 70s? And here it is, 2022, almost 2025. Dune is still winning Academy Awards. These were futuristic shows. Look at 1984, George Orwell. Everything that he talked about in that little small book has come to fruition. So that's how you convey the message to your children.
They say that in the word impossible, it says, I'm possible. The power of words to help us to shape what we experience in the world. If people would just be aware of that, to listen, to wake up in the morning to say, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. Well, you're going to be like that the rest of the day. You just set your intention. But if you focus on, wow, I woke up, what a beautiful day. I'm feeling like I'm rested and I want to go and do whatever it is I'm planning to do. I'm excited about it. That's the experience you'll have.
That's right.
Yeah. And so if we can sit here, even for ourselves in the limited amount of time that we have left, although, who knows, we might live to be, 120, Yvonne?
Oh yeah, I've got to go to 120 years old. So therefore, my physical wealth is extremely important to me. I spend more time on my physical wealth than my time wealth, how I manage my time, who I allow into my space, my sphere of influence, what I hear, what I speak, what I read. I manage all of that to the letter down my, I'm minutely acute of every single thing that comes in.
Well, that really goes back to the mindset of what do you believe and what do you want to have in your life, and to make your choices from that place. I mean, we do that with the Dream Maker Matrix. You look at your entire life, 5 main areas, and go 6 levels deep. And once you understand not only what you want to experience personally, but what you want to leave as your legacy, so that those who come after you can benefit from the effort that was your breath and your blood, sweat, and tears, and your adaptability and your flexibility. They can look back and see, oh, that's what they did when they had this kind of problem. That's how they got through it. How can we use that, leverage it, and do even better now? Yeah.
Yes.
So, no, go ahead.
No, I just was, coming into agreement, with what you're saying. And it's all about leveling up. And it really is. We have to level up in so many ways, and we cannot allow ourselves to be put down or to be let down. And we have to, it's a continual growth effort. And especially as we bring things into bear. In my next book that's coming out in the fall, the fourth industrial revolutions, and that's change management for the next 100 years. And that book will definitely outlive me, as well as, having served on the change management core committee for the telecom industry. And we wrote for the next 100 years how change management would actually occur and take place amongst the telecommunications companies in the world. And we wrote that, with that in mind, not with the fact in mind of whether we would be here or not be here, but the fact is mankind would be here. And that's how we have to begin to, really set our minds and begin to think. We got to get outside of ourselves and stop being, just selfish. I'm only going to do this for this time frame that I'm here, or I'm going to do this for 20 years after I go, or for my children, maybe 40, 50, 80 years, once I go, and then that's it, I'm through, I'm done. No, you have to think about the fact that you got here because you were special, you were unique, and there was something that your spirit and your person need to do on this planet for this world to continue. And so that means when the world continues, that means it goes on forever, world without end. So if you think about, well, whatever I'm doing here is so that this world does not end and that it continues, then it's very important. It must be extremely important. I'm very certain that, and very happy that people like Thomas Edison, people like Alexander Graham Bell, the communications people, the light people, that they stuck to that goal and they didn't give up, although it was failure after failure after failure, but they kept trying and they kept going because it was very important, not just for that day or not just for those moments or that year or that decade, but so that we could use that forever.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. I don't think I have any more questions other than my final question.
Okay.
I mean, if you know me, you and I, we can sit here and we can talk about the entire universe for decades, but we won't do that today. I think we'll complete here. Did you have any more last minute thoughts that came to you as we've been talking?
I think really the only thing I really want to kind of leave everyone with, and that is make the jump. Make the jump. Take your moonshot. Whatever that is, that moonshot is in your life, take that. Take that leap of faith. Do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait. Perfect it. Jump and perfect it. Live. Stop worrying about your finances. Take care of all that you have with what you have. Pay your debts down to the point where you have that something. Even if you begin with one item, pay it off. Leave it there. I own that 100%. Pay the next one off completely. I own that 100%. That's how you will begin to build your wealth, build that wealth mindset, and you will create that convergence.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, and I'm looking forward to the book because I've heard your talk about the fourth industrial revolution and the next 100 years for change management. It's mind-blowing stuff. But just in the last 2 months, all of the changes that have been happening around the world, what you're talking about, I can see it. Yeah. Okay, so are you ready for my final question?
Oh, I thought that was your final question. What's your final question?
My final question is, if you could speak to all the leaders in the world, all of them, and you knew that they would stop and listen to you, and they would take it to heart, and perhaps even act upon it, what would you tell them?
What I have to say to all the leaders in the world is this, is very simple. In your respective experiences, in your respective industries, with the respective people that you have influence over in your sphere of influence, do this one thing. 3 words: tell the truth. That's it.
Wow. Boy, politics, business, I mean, everything would just shift. But you know what? It would be for the better because then things can come into alignment, into true alignment with where we are supposed to be going, where we are meant to go. Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you. Simplicity. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for joining us. This has been Right Honorable Yvonne E. Gamble of SanPete Financial Group and many others, but that is her main organization. Oh, I forgot to ask. How can people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn. Just go out to LinkedIn and you'll see, just put in, Right Honorable Yvonne E. Gamble, and you will see me there. And that is the best way to connect with me.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Makes it simple. So thank you for joining us for Global Dreammaker Leadership Summit Spring 2022. This has been Right Honorable Yvonne Gamble and Baylan Megino. We are looking forward to seeing you again soon, and we will have you back, Ms. Gamble. We will have you back because it's always a pleasure and always really good, juicy stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you. I look forward to returning in the fall.
All right. Thank you.